Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as we talk about moving from a legacy TMS. Now, I'm Alison Toon. I'm a senior analyst at CSA Research. And at CSA Research, we talk a lot with users of translation management systems and with developers of those systems. And while anyone who is going global today can begin with a cloud-based system, they can find an up-to-date TMS or translation management process easily. Long-time users of TMSs often seem to be stuck with what we now consider to be legacy systems, either commercial TMSs or open source TMSs that they've heavily invested in, or even proprietary systems that they've put in place for managing their translation. So today we're going to be talking with people from 3 companies who are at various stages in their migration from older TMS to something that's more up to date. Now, just before we start, I want to give a quick mention to what people are currently calling headless TMSs. Given the amount of customization and integrations that long-time users of TMSs have done, a headless TMS where content flows dynamically from a content repository to a translation process and back, that's simply what these companies have been doing since they implemented a TMS with integrations and connectors. A headless TMS is nothing new for long-time users of translation management systems, and it's really not what we're going to be covering today. We're looking at the expectations and challenges for migrating from an older TMS to a new one. Now, during this event, please feel free to post any questions or comments in the chat or in the comments feature. I may also make some questions for you guys in the audience magically appear on the screen. So please type your responses in the comments. All right, that's enough of me. I'd like to ask our guests to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about where they are in the migration process today, and then I'll have some more questions for them. Alphabetical order. Francois, please, can you begin?
Okay, nice. Thank you, Alison. So my name is François Richard. I have been working in translation, localization, and internationalization for almost 30 years now. My interest and expertise is around tools and technologies, but also standards or processes around translation and localization. Today, I work at HP Inc. And as a globalization technical lead, my role is to build up and to make available a performant and rich, what we call ecosystem, which is a set of tools and systems around translation and localization. And the goal of this is that our HP programs, so our buyers, will be able to build their own translation solution using this ecosystem to meet their need. And in terms of migration, just to finish on this one, I'm currently bringing all the data point to our internal management, and hopefully a decision will be made in the coming months to move from our on-premise to a cloud solution. So that's where we are today.
Okay, thank you. Loic, your turn.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon. So Loic Defender-Virel, I think I'm trying to beat Francois a little bit with having been in localization, translation, that kind of industry for over 30 years now. So retirement is near. So I lead the in-house localization team for Intel. I've been with this team for quite a few years now. And we are right in the middle of our transition from our legacy TMS that we use since probably 2005, so a good 15, 17 years, to a cloud-based solution, which we hope to have running in production by the end of the year. And the main reason for me to do this is trying relentlessly to improve our processes and augment our resources. I have project managers, translators, editors who are working, interacting with TMS every day, and I try to give them the tools that I can to make them more efficient. And there is a lot of challenges right now, a lot of demand from my own management and our customers and stakeholders to, can we use more? And I'm going to say it like that. Can we use more AI to augment those resources and become more efficient? And I think that's a journey we're on.
Okay, thank you. And Luz?
Hi there. So yes, my name is Luz Maria Pineda. I work for Motorola Solutions. I've been working for this company almost 8 years now, in the localization industry, a little bit over 10 years. And we basically migrated to a TMS cloud base over a year ago. So we have been working more than a year now in the new system. It was a lot of fun. But yes, I'm here just to share all about our experiences on this journey.
Excellent. Thank you. So what are your expectations from moving from a legacy system? What do each of you expect to gain once you've moved to a newer system? Who'd like to take that?
I can tell you the reasons why we really wanted to do it. Well, we were trying to automate as much as possible our workflows, and the translation workflow was one of those workflows that doing it manually was simply not scalable. We knew that the company was going to grow. Initially, my company was acquired by Motorola Solutions, and they had started acquiring other software companies. So we knew that we were going to grow. We were lucky to be in a position that our localization team was very mature. So we start helping other companies being acquired by Motorola. So we knew that we were going to grow. That was not a question. And our translation workflow, the way that we were handling it, it was just not scalable. So we needed to automate it, and it seems like the solution was to move to a cloud solution, basically.
Yeah, and for us, it's really, you know, the good old, you know, do more with less, or do more, better, faster, cheaper. It's really looking at, there are, and I have seen that in let's say in industry labs, you know, in research, a lot of new capabilities that are emerging and are accessible, are available. And the question is, how do I get my TMS backbone, which is really, you know, the core tool of my localization workflow? How do I get that solution to be able to place an API call to one of those workers, if you want, you know, one of those niche capabilities that can return to me enriched content that my tool can then process better, and have a little bit of that intelligence be part of my system and pre-program, versus having a person to have to go and take a look. That doesn't scale. I mean, Luz just said it, the system, you know, a human step is not exactly scalable when you have increased volume. So you want certain decisions in your workflows, you want certain choices to be made by the system, and just rely on humans where the system can't make a determination. And I think that's what we try to achieve. That's really where I'm interested in moving to a TMS in the cloud that is, let's say, younger technology, that is more open, has a better set of APIs, you know, is also more robust from a performance perspective, and get all of this in one package, and then have the ability, depending on the kind of work and task that I need to achieve, to call 1, 2, 3, 4 different, you know, bits of software and applications to give me the response that I need to get the next step in my workflow. That's the interest. That's the main reason to move.
Being devil's advocate, you can't really do that with your old system. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. We could, but it's a lot more work.
Right.
And maybe to add another one, considering the solution where we are. So what you describe is the promise of the solution where we want to be, but concerning the solution where we are today, we found the burden of maintaining this architecture and all this infrastructure, because for us it's on premise. It has been very challenging. It's taking a lot of time, a lot of resource, and we have less of these. The people also keep changing, so there is a knowledge that must be shared every time. And so for us, it's really what we are hoping is that with the cloud offer, we will get away from this.
That's a big deal when you've got to continue to maintain and staff a system that's on premise. Yes.
Yeah, we're not on prem, but I think I'm going to add as well that, so when we first deployed TMS, okay, mid 2000, we didn't really know what we were getting into, and I think we made a lot of good progress, but we also made some strategic mistakes in the way we set it up and configured it, and it has proven to be very, very hard to clean that up within our old system. And I think a lot of hope is also that by moving, we're going to be able to start with a clean slate. We're going to be, fixing the error of the past and moving, forward new and clean. And that's going to be a much, much better situation.
Now, is that something you'd advise as a best practice, to consider it a move to something brand new rather than trying to replicate what you have today in the cloud? Because we often talk to people that say, well, if we move to the cloud-based system, it won't do everything the same as we do it today.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. You don't want it to do it the same.
Exactly.
So if you move to a new system, to a new tool, and all of your people go back to doing things the same way they did it before, that's a failure. It's not going to work any better. So you effectively have to spend a lot of time with your own team on training, understanding those are the capabilities that we're going to get from these new systems that we want to use. And you have to forget whatever you have been doing for the past 10, 15 years, because this is getting to the point of not working anymore. And so we have to get rid of those old habits. We have to get rid of those old, ways. And that is one of the big challenges with moving from one TMS to the next. I have seen that when we first deployed TMS long ago, when some of our project managers still wanted to do everything the way they operated before they had a TMS.
Yep.
So they would email translators to check on their availabilities, tell them, hey, there's a job waiting for you. When the translators already 2 hours ago had received a notification automatically from the TMS that, hey, this job has been assigned to you.
Yes.
They know. You don't need to ping them with an email, and you don't need to tell them when that's due, because the job tells them this is due tomorrow by noon. Go do something else. And no, so it means there is, I think, spending a lot of effort on training and getting everybody on board, understanding why we're doing this, because moving from one TMS to another one, it's a major undertaking.
Yes,
it's a lot
absolutely.
of work. It's painful.
Absolutely.
So we don't want to do it every 2 years, otherwise that's all we're doing. But you want to make sure it works at the end.
I completely agree. It was kind of like the way that we approach it. There were features that we definitely didn't want to compromise. Like, we needed those features. But on top of that, we wanted all the benefits of, as you're saying, going through all this work and finding a solution. But we also wanted that extra that we were looking for at the time. One of the things that comes to mind is being able to isolate deltas in the software strings, so we could keep the scope under control, and identifying what you need. Absolutely, you cannot compromise on that. And what you want, I think that's very important when you are starting this journey, because as Luke said, it's a lot of work. And this is a lot of work on top of the tasks that you normally have to execute anyways. So if you are going to invest all that time and all that money, because there is also a cost attached to it, you better get what you need and all the extra, all the benefits. Everything that can be automated has to be automated. You want to free your team's brains to do something else rather than verifying that the delivery is correct. If that can be automated, so be it. It's not that difficult to do. You you just you just do it. You get the tools that do it for you, and then your team can dedicate their brains to do something more productive, something that a human is definitely needed.
It's interesting because something that is somehow related is what we call customization. So in our case, we have been heavily customizing the system. And one of my job is to recognize which customization are actually critical, meaning they bring a business advantage to HP. And this one, we will have to discuss with the vendor to see how we can somehow not necessarily reproduce, but find a way to get a similar feature on the new solutions. But for the others, my recommendation would be to stay away from customization, because it's another really heavy duty to maintain them across the different upgrades, and it's something really, I mean, if you can afford it, stay away from customization.
Mhm.
I would agree with that. I mean, some customization are needed eventually, because effectively they give you a competitive advantage, or because of your overall workflow, they're needed in order to get something to work. But I would say, look if there is a way to fix your content upstream and not have to deal with something more complex within your TMS, and use your TMS as plain as possible. And work with the suppliers, work with the provider and those third-party vendors to figure out, hey, I would want that capability. How can you guys make that work? And then it's available for everybody.
Right. It's more of a configuration at that point than a customization.
But when you but you don't want the configuration to be like so custom for you that it only applies to you. We had a lot of configuration items on our side that at the end of the day become, somebody has to make a binary decision. Oh, do I use this configuration to process this content, or do I use that configuration? And that is non-scalable. You cannot have a project manager look at a single piece of content coming in and open the file, look at it, and say, oh, I'm going to use this config, it's going to get better, or I'm going to use that config, it's going to get better. With those translators, those transfer memories, those workflows, those empty engines, you name it, all of that being prepackaged, which was the beauty of having a TMS, because you could pre-configure all of that. But then the question becomes, when my files come in, which one of those do I use?
Yes.
So that's where, for example, when I say I want to use AI, well, maybe AI can do some categorization for me and select based on this content, looking at the content and say, oh, this is the way we need to run it. And as long as you're right 90% of the time, 80% of the time, that's good with me, because today it's a 50-50.
Yeah, I mean, and this brings me to the question about, preparing for your migration. And those of you that have already done it or begun it, and Francois, as you're thinking about it, what would you advise people to do prior to that migration? Because I'm sure in the existing TMSs, you've got a million different possible workflows and translation memories or whatever the way it's organized. What would you advise people to do before they actually physically start the migration? Or do you just throw it all away and start again?
No, I can actually talk about that, because just to get to the decision, yes, we're going to do it, it took us quite a while. And we started by defining a very well detailed selection criteria for the TMSs that we were going to evaluate. We just didn't want to go for the first TMS that somebody talked about. No, we actually wanted to use it. And we wanted to score that TMS based on these criteria. I remember we even assigned weights to some of the features that we really wanted. And based on that criteria, it was clear, because at the end of the day, you have numbers and you can compare apples to apples. And you can take the decision which one is the one that you want to go for. So my advice would be, have a clear picture of what you want, keeping in mind that basically sky is the limit. If you really want something, this is the time that you need to put it into account to evaluate the tools that you are looking into. So just know what you want.
Yeah. So, I mean, I see that you popped up the question, where are you in your TMS journey? I mean, so we're just in the middle of transitioning.
Lloyd, that's not really, that's for the audience, so they can add some more comments. So I want to know.
I see.
I want to know what you advise people to do before they physically do the migration.
So, Lou said it, have a clear idea of what you want and have a clear idea of your current lay of the land. So you need to assess in your current TMS what works for you, what doesn't, what is not used, and figure out what you can eventually, abandon, get rid of, and what you would want to maintain. You need to look at those capabilities or those features that are must-have, that you cannot do without. I'm looking personally at having everything built and tested on a staging environment before we move in production. Okay. And I have put for my team one request, and that is probably my biggest, ask from them is from the day we move the first customer from our legacy TMS to the new TMS, I want this to be done, everybody to be moved within ideally 2 months, but no more than a quarter. Because I don't want to have two systems coexisting in the environment with some job run there, some jobs are run there, because that's very, very confusing. So I'm like, we're going to take the time we need, test everything. There is a lot of interdependencies because you have all of those integration, you have, third party that are plugged into your TMS. All of this has to be upgraded to work with the new system. You need to test it, validate it, and when you're satisfied that all of your key round trips work properly and that the new capabilities are also, working well, then you can move into production. I know we looked. Luz mentioned having that selection criteria. We had something similar, of course, with current features, roadmap, customer support, hosting capabilities. Pricing, all of those items came into, to make what we think was the right decision for us in the current environment, in our current situation. What you want is to make sure that you have made a good decision that you can live with. You might not get everything you hoped, but if your decision was good, the outcome is not as critical. You hope for a good outcome, but there are certain things you can control. But at least you say, okay, I have crossed all the T's, dotted the I, have done my due diligence. I have gotten, shared with colleagues in the industry, gotten some insight from experts. I did my research, and I'm satisfied that I have made a right choice. That's all that your management can ask from you, and really, what you do this with your team, everybody is on board, and then you move forward. Not everything is going to run like clockwork. You're going to run into issues, that's for sure.
Well,
okay, then deal with it. Ask for help. Talk to your supplier. Figure out what's the impact. Do we have a workaround? And then keep moving forward.
Francois, what do you foresee as being the biggest challenges for you before you get started, or as you get started?
Well, I was going to say, so I agree with what you said, Loic and Luz. So we have a collection of user stories, that are, let's say, the basis for us to evaluate a new potential TMS replacement and see if it's a good fit or not. But something that we have to do also is to, before migrating, kind of interview each of the programs that use our current platform to make sure we truly understand what usage they are making of our platform and what critical benefits they are getting out of it, to make sure that we are not missing something. Because the user stories that we have are really high level, but I'm not sure they are covering all the different business, how the business sees the benefits from the current platform. And we don't want to miss this. We want to make sure that when we switch them to the new platform, in terms of benefits, they're going to feel comfortable and at the same level as what they had before.
Mm-hmm.
Have any of you uncovered any very strange uses for the TMS that you weren't expecting?
Yes, big time. Yes. I remember specifically a group in Japan where they were using, and you probably even remember this, but they were using the TMs and storing all kind of information that you could consider as metadata, but like non-official metadata that was completely proprietary to the use they were making of our solution. So that was really something that we had to think completely differently on how we could address this with the new platform.
Wow. Interesting. Any other particular different ways of using the TMS that you've had to deal with?
No, I don't think
Not
I have a
really.
crazy use case. I mean, we have some weird things in terms of content coming through, but that would be challenging for any TMS or any MT engine as well. You know, where we have like conditional text and it's all mingled together. It's quite challenging. But that has nothing to do with the TMS itself. It's more a problem of on the CMS side, on the authoring side, than it is on the translation side.
I'm thinking we have another example recently where they were doing genuine transcreation, which is really breaking the notion of translation memory, because the link between your source and target is lost. And so this is very dangerous. Luckily, these were isolated from the other processes, so we were able, to isolate them from the rest. But this is another use that we only recently realized.
Yeah, that's always a challenge, because you have to admit that the main purpose almost of having a TMS, besides the workflow automation, is to effectively have a system that will automatically handle the TM leveraging for you.
Yes.
And then, the TM update at the end of the process. You get content, you apply every memory that you have in your database, you translate the rest, you save everything, you rinse and you repeat. If you start, and some of us, we will also use some of those translation memory to train empty engine. So if you start having content that pollutes your translation memories, you probably ask for trouble down the road.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So do you expect your new system to be able to perhaps identify those strange uses for you more automatically and to be able to flag it? Would that be something that's within perhaps an AI feature?
Not necessarily, but I would expect that if I can identify that there is such a group of users who is doing this, then probably I would expect my TMS to support a different.
Oh, I don't hear Loic anymore.
No, I don't either.
Yeah. No.
You've frozen Loic. Well, when he comes back, you can explain.
Yes. I was going to say something about that. So we do have some translation memories that use a specific format that cannot be applied to the rest of the software. So the way that we're handling those cases is we use tags. And when we wanted to say to train a machine translation engine, those tags would be excluded because it's a little bit the same case of transcreation. You don't really want to train your engines using those segments. And the way that it is automated in the TMS is because everything that goes through that particular project is being tagged, and we exclude those tags for potential training purposes.
So you're using content metadata to help identify the best thing. So sorry, Loic, you froze partway through your what you were telling.
Yeah, so everybody got black for 5 seconds. No, but what I was saying is just that I expect the new TMS to have the flexibility to let me have a workflow specific to that use case, where eventually we save our TMs after translation, and then we give that customer internally the ability to tweak their content any way they want in the tool or outside of the tool, and so be it. If we can reinject it eventually but then you complicate things with sentence-based segmentation or paragraph-based segmentation, and try to effectively handle all of it. Maybe that's what a new TMS will be able to do. Paragraph-based, sentence-based. Why not?
Why not, indeed?
That would be useful.
Yes. Is there anything that the TMS developers could be doing differently to support you guys as you make these migrations? I mean, as long as they continue to support the legacy systems, there's going to be people that continue to use them. Uh, do you feel that there's going to be a time when somebody has to push to get everybody moved onto a newer platform? Or I mean, what do you see the risks of having multiple different TMSs available, the old systems, the new systems, anything really?
I mean, having the old and the new, available, if they come from the same providers, then it means additional cost for them. So in terms of maintenance and development, so you might want to ramp up more development on the new system to make them more appealing to the users, and ramp down development on the older one, so they fall into obsolescence, a little bit faster. I think most of the providers today have seen quite a few migrations over the past few years. So they have a good idea of what it takes. They have a little bit of a, this is a recipe. So they can provide much more guidance. And so you're not alone in that journey. But you have to be very open with them and effectively, understand what their new TMS does compared to your current one. And help them understand what you want to achieve with that new system as well. You have to be very clear in your not your dreams, but your objectives, and say, hey, I want this within a year, I want this within 2 years. So let's work together and build that roadmap. And hopefully you're not the only customer asking for such and such capabilities, and then you can have some sort of a group of users driving more of the roadmap with the providers and prioritizing things. I mean, I have seen that done by quite a few suppliers. This is great. I mean, that partnership, that collaboration, having a tool that has all bells and whistles, and then I'm not going to use more than 20% or 30% of it is not exactly necessarily helpful for me. But having a tool that is flexible enough, so if a bell or a whistle is not available, I can grab it from another provider and connect it. That's what I want. And so having that openness is definitely what I'm looking for.
Are there any showstoppers that would prevent you from moving away from that legacy platform to a newer one?
Well, probably.
I'm guessing budget in some cases.
Yeah, budget. Yeah, you can always negotiate.
You can always negotiate. That is absolutely true. But I'm just thinking maybe smaller companies, they might not have the budget that is needed for a move like this. Then that would be a problem. Hopefully, as more people use cloud-based solutions, they become a little bit cheaper, and we can cover more people using those TMSs. But something that you asked earlier about what we would ask developers of TMSs that could probably help a lot of us. Nowadays, we're taking decisions based on numbers. So having a good reporting feature in that TMS, I think is something that I haven't seen working in the way that in our case we would like it to work. But it might be something that they might need to consider, having a good reporting system, a good reporting feature that allows you to mine all those numbers and to make sense out of them. And I'm not even just talking about word count. I'm talking about number of projects that you send for a week, for example. It basically enable the user to take better decisions based on something solid. So that would be one of the things that I would recommend people developing TMSs. Okay, so yeah, you have an excellent parser for properties files, for regex files. What about the numbers? Like, what is the information that people might be able to use to take decisions on a regular basis?
Well, it goes even further than your operational data, but all of
Yes.
that language that you've got in there must be a huge resource going forward for all sorts of things. So
Yes.
Yeah. But then you can look at, maybe the solution to that is having your TMS provider, making it possible through an API call to grab a lot of information and metadata about your projects and run all of this in I don't know, Tableau, Power BI, and have your own reporting handled this way, which you might be doing somewhere else within your company anyway. So what is the right solution? Is it having a custom developed, reporting, dashboarding capability within the TMS? Maybe. Or is it having the ability to actually query the TMS and extract all of that information and slice and dice it any way you want within your own, reporting capability? Either one works depending on the use case, but we need at least one of the two to be available.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the budget is definitely a big topic for being able to migrate from one system to the other. We have also, it's not a problem, but our TMS, like many others, is actually interlocked with other TMS. So it's not only a budget on our team, but it's also a budget on their team, on the CMS team. So you need to make sure that they understand that they're going to have to upgrade to a new API. So they're going to be a cost, and that in terms of timing, they agree with what you are proposing. And that's, again, this budget is not in your team anymore. So sometimes it can be, it's definitely something that needs to be discussed quite as early as possible.
Yeah, that's a great point, because if any of those integration, and you might have, 20%, 30%, half of your volume coming through one of those integration, cannot be done, then you can't migrate. You're going to have to keep the old TMS in place until that integration is taken care of. So that would be probably one of the clearer use case of a showstopper.
So how would you make sure that happens within your 2-month migration timeframe?
So that has to happen way before.
Yes, before. Absolutely.
I expect us to migrate probably in Q4 this year, switching, but all of those discussions have been happening already for the last 2 quarters with the supplier, with the different teams that are involved, because you don't want to surprise anyone with, oh, we just migrated, you have to change this now, because changing this now might take 6 months, and you cannot have one of your internal stakeholders not accessing translation for 6 months. So you need to make sure that you actually, part of your initial due diligence is identifying all of those dependencies, all of your stakeholders, and make sure that to some extent they understand why you want to change TMS and what that means for them. They might have some work to do as well.
So your big investment is in the investigation, the design, the change management, the preparation, and just a small part of your investment is in actually doing it.
Yes. Totally.
Absolutely.
Totally. You don't want to start, this one is cool, let's license it and deploy it. It's in the cloud, we can just deploy it tomorrow, start sending some jobs through this, and then start moving everybody else and understanding all that needs to happen. Your life will be a disaster for the next year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And that resonates with our experience, because the testing, the evaluation, figuring out the criteria to test the TMS that we went for actually took something like 14 months. And onboarding all the repositories, it took less than 5 months. So the majority of the effort was allocated preparing for it.
Yeah.
Alison, there are a lot of questions and comments in the chat in the comments, Phil. So I'm not sure if you're seeing them, but we cannot.
If you have a question that you'd like to add, Anna, please go ahead.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start.
Because there's a lot. What I would like to say is we're seeing a lot of comments coming in the chat, and if we don't get to answer your questions or comments today, what we will endeavour to do is produce a report or a summary. We've got a lot of comments as well as questions, so and we've got people plus wanting what other people have said. So I'm just taking a look through the comments to see if I can find any actual questions. One interesting one saying sometimes politics or internal politics come into play as part of the migration. Have any of the panel here had politics or internal machinations come in and interfere with your plans for migration? And if so, how do you deal with them?
Not really. No, there is
not really.
no undue influence or politics. No, it's all data driven.
Well, that's the key, isn't it? You've got the numbers.
Yes.
You've got the numbers to prove it is
Yes.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was another one asked earlier, Alison and panelists as well. The very first one actually, where it says legacy system proceeds due to extensive customization. This is a maintenance burden, as Francois notes at the beginning, but it also has often made things quite efficient, at least as long as processes don't change. How do you budget for recreating those efficiencies? Just going to cloud once we know that, and would actually increase the burden in the short run as you are re-engineering you have already done?
Yeah, what has been your approach for recreating customizations that you can't do without?
I don't have an answer right now because I'm still trying to figure out this one. I mean, definitely talking with the vendors to find out how it's possible somehow to enrich their solution while not interfering with their development plans. So kind of keep separate.
But in the comments, I was saying that there are take advantage of the migration to also somebody said it that way. Do an audit of your processes and try to figure out what maybe is not so good anymore, or what could be abandoned, and there is a better way of doing things. And you need to understand what the new system will enable. There is definitely more flexibility. You might have conditional workflows. You might have a lot of different things. So understand what that the kind of capabilities that are available to you with the new system, and that will call for, we can actually end of life this process or this way of doing things and adopt this new way of doing things, because it's going to be much better, and we're going to save an hour per job or save a day in the translational workflow, whatever the case might be. But understand, a lot of time just bringing a new tool in the environment is not going to be the solution to all of your problems. So you also have to ask yourself, where do I have process issues, training issues, resourcing issues, and try to tackle all of this and say, hey, that's going to be your opportunity, because you start new, you start clean with that new system, and figure out, hey, is there a better way, a different way of doing things? In order to get that response, you have to understand what the new platform gives you and how it works. So spend a lot of time with your new provider, training your team on that new platform, so they understand the capabilities, and they're going to come with ideas to you. We say, hey, we used to do this way. That's so stupid. Look, we can do it that way with the new platform. It's so much better. Can I do it? And yes, of course.
You want to get from A to B, and it might be that with the new system you're taking a different route, or you're using a different vehicle.
Totally. Yeah. And you have to be totally okay with that. That has to be actually your mantra in a way. You say, hey, we're going to do things differently, and that's okay. That's that's the objective. Because
yes,
hopefully
but
the differences
that
will
said,
be better.
at the same time, there are cases where you want to go from A to B, but in the new system you can't get to B. And in some cases, the business will even show you what the benefits they're going to lose by switching to the new platform. So now we are talking of actual dollars. And in
Then
some
maybe
cases
that,
like this, it's
but did you have that specific B as one of your must-have in the selection criteria? That's part of what you need to have in your due diligence. Okay, if this is absolutely needed, you want to make sure that the 3 or 4 providers that you shortlist for an RFP do provide that capability, do support that content type, do have that integration available, or something like that.
Yep.
Because that would be painful, effectively, to figure out after a month, after a year of effort, that for these stakeholders, your new platform is a no-go.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, like you mentioned earlier, testing. Do the testing, and that is going to expose a lot of issues that you could potentially have.
Yeah.
And it's during that trial period that you see, okay, so is it worth to continue even the trial? Is it a showstopper? Is there a way for me to mitigate that risk? One of the things that we have is, like, we have all sorts of file formats. You name a file format, and most likely our software handles that file format. So in some cases, we actually ask the development teams, hey, you are using this customized TXT file. Can you convert it into something else that is more localization friendly? And you would be surprised how the development teams cooperate with you when you explain what the benefits are going to be. Like, one of the big selling points, it was for me to go to the development teams and tell them, okay, so if we go this way, my deadlines for entering new strings, entering new UI strings, are going to be more flexible. And they love that, because they don't have tools telling, okay, so everything that you enter until this Thursday gets translated in the next release. If you add it after 6 o'clock, it's not going to be translated. Just explaining the benefits, that is not just the benefits for your team, but also for them. It gets you help. Definitely gets you help.
Yeah.
And work also with your providers. Sometimes they provide the transformations themselves, and that is awesome because it's automated. You don't have to worry about it. You don't even every QA check is also automated. So that frees you, the amount of time that freezes you is just amazing. So, but I agree, you need to test it. And if you get all your team trying and testing the new TMS, that's your training. You don't have to do it afterwards because they
That's a good
already have
point.
their hands. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. And this is something that everybody in your team needs to know how to use, needs to know how to troubleshoot, because I don't know if there is a localization team out there that has the budget to have one person just overlooking one tool, the way that the tool is working. So everybody needs to know how to use the tool, how to troubleshoot, and there is not a problem if somebody goes on holidays because everybody knows how to get their hands with the tool. That's how we approached it, and it worked.
Thank you.
Yeah, we take a slightly different approach there. I mean, we have a few, like, super users, if you want, that
Okay.
will be able to. So if one of them is on vacation, there are still probably 2 of them available.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it takes practice to become really, really knowledgeable and troubleshooting on a TMS, especially when you have to investigate. Okay, this
Yeah.
round trip doesn't complete, but is this a problem on the CMS side, on the
Yes.
integration side, on the
Yes.
TMS side, and you need to
Absolutely.
get access to all of that. You need to understand how all of the connections work. So it can be quite challenging. So that's not something that you will become very good at when you do it once in a while. So having people who are more specialized and see more of those issues more often help them become much more, efficient. And I think that's an advantage.
Yeah, I guess if you have a big team, yes, my team is basically 4 people. That's it.
Yeah.
And we have to take care over 26 repositories. So
Yeah,
yeah,
my
I
team, my
guess
team
yeah.
is just 3 people. So I mean, all of
Yeah.
that work is actually done by the supplier who are using the platform.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And is that not an area where more automation can help as well?
If it works, yes.
If it works. Okay, I have one more question here from the audience. How or are you measuring the ROI of moving from an older system to a new one?
We'll measure after we have moved, not this year, because this year is going to be a negative number.
Good answer.
Yeah. Now we expect to see some improvements, of course, and like that we can measure in terms of productivity gains.
Yes.
But I will not see any of those in 2023. That's going to be probably what I'm spending money on, having a tool being built that I'm not using. So not the best recipe to get a great ROI to share with management.
No, plus I think the ROI is difficult for us to do it.
Yeah.
It's really the business groups that are the stakeholders of our solution that can do that. For us, what we can do an ROI on what is the cost of the current platform, what is the cost of the new platform, do a kind of comparison. We can also evaluate what are going to be the migration costs. That's kind of easy to do. But I think the interesting ROI exercise has to come from the business programs. They are the one that do know their translation budget. And they are the one, like you said, Loic, after 6 months on the new platform, they're going to be able to tell you for certain volumes, here are my translation costs. So hopefully they went down but I mean, to do a meaningful exercise in my position would be difficult, business-wise.
What about system maintenance and support costs? Is that something you expect to change?
For us, yes, and for us, it was part of the ROI I was talking about, which is really comparing the two platforms, and it was very important for us to actually get a good understanding of how much money we were spending on maintaining all this on-premise architecture, and so yes, definitely.
And in our case, it was one of those items that we included in the selection criteria. Support had to be included as part of the price of the license, and response time no more than 24 hours after we ask for help. So
Luz, as you've already done it, would you do it again? Do you feel it's a successful project that you've done?
okay, this is going to sound if I had the same team that I have right now, I would definitely do it again. I got so much help. My team was absolutely amazing. Like, they were real soldiers, testing, trying things, breaking things. I think when you have the right people helping you, it's less daunting and you learn a lot. Like, things that you would never think you would learn, you learned a lot. So yeah, I would say, yeah, with the same team, I would probably do it again. Yeah, no problem.
Loic, at your stage in the process, is there anything that you wish you'd known before you began, or any horror stories that you want to share with us?
No horror stories. I realize it's taking much more time than what I had envisioned initially. And so in the process, I learned, okay, be willing to compromise with your own team. I mean, the team tells me what's doable, what's feasible, and by when. And then I say, okay, then I don't have necessarily, a specific hard deadline that I need to migrate from this tool to that tool. So we're working closely with the suppliers to manage this. and it's a good relationship. So I have no problem there. Again, it's really for me the moment we flip the switch with one internal stakeholders. I want to move everybody else on the new platform within a very short period of time, not to have two tools, two platforms in the environment, coexisting in production. But we're working through this. Yes, we realize, okay, you need budget, you need time, you need to pick a very qualified project manager to drive the effort and make sure that all those moving pieces fall in place at the right time, so you can actually flip the switch.
And Francois, what do you foresee as being your biggest challenge?
Well, I think for us, it's going to be this synchronization with CMS upgrades. I mean, we have, in particular, because we have a lot of proprietary CMS, so nobody except internal team can help us on this. So it's not even a question of budget; it's a question of people and how are they going to be available? When are they going to be available to perform this kind of API upgrade? And well, like I said, we need to engage with them as early as possible to find the right windows to be able to do that. I think that's
lots of moving parts. And that's it. It's people, processes, and the tools that have all got to be taken into account.
Exactly.
Anna, I think we've come almost to the end of our time. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We're blocking 1 hour for this session. 1 hour for this session. There's still plenty of questions and comments. I think also to address them.
Yes, we can. I will promise to address these questions and comments offline. Probably post something to LinkedIn, share some information with everybody. Do you see anything urgent that we need to address right now before we finish?
Without starting the next round of discussion for the next hour, no.
Well, then we can come back. We can come back. We can come back. We can come back and do this again. There's obviously lots of interest in this topic. There are many companies that are faced with a migration, and some are hesitating because it seems like too big a deal. So hopefully what we've discussed today will help other organizations in the same situation.
Right. Because there were a lot of strategic comments how to go about that on the strategic level, but then there were questions on administration or automation level, or how tools connect and whatnot. And these we weren't able to address at all. So maybe even a follow-up session, but there are plenty of questions there.
I think it just emphasizes how complex such a migration may appear to be before you begin it, and how structured a process you need to evaluate everything you need to do to select your next platform and then to actually do it. So it's a big deal.
Yeah. Ask questions. Ask a lot of questions from your peers, from your team, from your stakeholders, from your suppliers, and get comfortable with your choice. That would be my final recommendation here.
Okay. Any other final recommendations?
Something big in our case is if I have to do this all over again, I would pay attention to the security policies in advance, because that was something that it delayed a little bit the decision, and it increased the cost because we have to buy another tool to overcome those issues. So the security policies shouldn't be a tiny item in your selection criteria. It should probably be one of the major. It has to be weight number 3 in a scale from 0 to 3 is gonna be one of the most important items.
Because
Be aware.
it,
Yes,
it could completely block what you're doing.
absolutely. It can kill the project, and you don't want to spend too much time in something that at the end of the day it doesn't pass the test.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Good point.
security.
Very-
Security is very important, especially if you are handling software. Software is one of the main assets of many companies. And with all the good reasons, people don't want anybody they don't know going into the repositories. That makes all the sense in the world. So just be aware that it might be something that you need to take into consideration well in advance.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody participating here. Thank you, my panelists, for coming along and sharing such wonderful information. And we'll be back soon with another event.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was really nice meeting you all.
Thank you, Ron.
That's a
Thank you,
pleasure.
Alison.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.